Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dallas, your host of the brand new podcast, Sons of the Star. Joining me today is my co host, Cowboy Regg. We are here to break down the super wild card weekend matchup between our Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Cowboy Regg, as we approach the playoffs of the 2023-2024 season, how are we feeling about it overall?
Feeling some deja vu. Old enough to remember them 92 boys going into San Francisco as a two seed and winning that game. It was a young, hungry team. Troy Aikman, Dak has reminded me of him a lot this year. I just feel like there's magic in the air. I can't wait to get it started.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a little background on the show as well. This is my dad, Cowboy Reg. So we are two generational Cowboys fans. So he's bringing in a different perspective than I am. I could say this is definitely the most confident I felt about the Dallas Cowboys heading into the playoffs since 2014. We're not going to talk about how that ended. I mean, actually, we probably should. We'll just start out by saying Dez caught that ball, and the Cowboys won that game in my eyes. But other than that, I look at this team as a whole, and I think this is the most confident I've been in the Dallas Cowboys going into the playoffs in my lifetime. So obviously high hopes and how the season started versus how it ended. We most of the season we did not think we would be sitting at the two seed position right now. So I'm pretty excited as well. I'm just excited for the playoffs in general. I can't believe that the season's already over. The regular season's over. It just kind of flew by. So here we go. This is where you make your money, right? So um, we will go into kind of the post game from last week and how that the season's looking as a whole after that game at Washington. So Cowboy Reg, first thoughts on week 18 matchup at Washington, how that game went. What were your thoughts?
Well, week 18 makes me want to do this because it was
Hey,
beautiful.
crack
Absolutely
them if you got
beautiful.
them.
Cheers. I, I like the way that we ran the ball, controlled the clock. We did what we had to do. We got out reasonably healthy, a little scare. I know we'll talk about the injury report uh, during the show, but a little scare with Gilmore, but looks like he's going to be all right. Um, just super impressed with the team overall. Dak's performance, our offensive line. Um, Hoffman came in. I knew TJ Bass is going to do a good job. Hoffman came in, did a good job. We had 31 first downs. I mean, that's amazing. 31 first downs. It's absolutely amazing. The Commanders had 12, and that's the story of the game right there. That's my kind of football. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. It was a little tight in that first half, and I kind of started to worry a little bit just because of how last year went and how we always kind of struggle at Washington going into FedEx Field. Probably the worst environment in the NFL. Sorry for Washington, but it's a it's not a good place to play. The field
Yeah, the
itself
field looked rough.
never looks good. Yeah, especially being in January in the DC area. But I thought it was kinda good that the Cowboys had to face some adversity in that first half, and although I didn't want them to ever be down in a game, looking back on it, I'm kinda glad they were just because it's good to I think it's good for your competitive edge going into the playoffs to have to face adversity. I think this team has definitely faced some adversity in December and January, but overall, going off on a high note, they responded well. Um, it kinda felt like our luck was going away in that game a little bit, but I thought they really responded well to it, and overall, they were just the offense was dominant. They were gonna keep us in the game just by scoring over and over again. Defense stepped up, so, yeah, it was positive overall, um, but I guess let's get into the Gilmore injury a little bit and talk about how big of a deal that is, and, you know, coming right into this game on Sunday, how important is it that he comes out strong and somewhat healthy? Or what do you think is some of the first indicators that he is at the same level that he was all season? Or will we see him at the same level at all during these playoffs? What are your thoughts?
I think. Gilmore has stated he's played with this injury before, and he's able to play through it. So I don't think there's a question about him being on the field. But they're going to test him early. I think I would. If I'm Jordan
Hmm.
Love, I'm coming at him early. And Gilmore's he's a smart player, and he's going to play within his capabilities. I think he's going to try to tip passes and defend. He's not going to try to jump routes with one shoulder in a harness. And I think if they want to pick on Gilmore, I think we're in good shape because that's just not the guy you want to pick on. He's a veteran and he's former defensive player of the year, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he if they want to test him, we're in good shape. I'll just put it that way. But I don't expect him to get an interception. I wouldn't bank on that, but I would say he's going to get some deflections. He's gonna have tight coverage, and hopefully the refs keep the flags in the pocket and let him play his game.
Yeah, that's a good point with the refs. I think we'll see early on. I'm not exactly sure what crew is working this game, but with the pass interference calls, you're going to see that early on. But I mean, it's tough either way. We're going to have to deal with it. We can talk about penalties all day. I actually have an interesting thought for everyone out there in Cowboys Nation. I believe that this is the first game that we're going to see a holding call called on Micah Parsons. I'm calling it now. If there's any prop bets out there for the betters, I would hammer that right now. I think the playoff referee crew is going to be um, they're going to hear that noise, and I think the NFL is going to kind of make a statement by saying, "Hey, we've seen the film. The Cowboys are complaining. We're going to see a holding call on Micah Parsons." I really hope we do.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing for us is now it's gotten to the point. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a Packers host, and he said, if I'm coaching the Packers, I'm saying hold Micah every play. Until the referees make that call, you can literally hold him every play. And that's very unfortunate. They let it get to that, but that's going to
Yeah,
stop. I agree with you. I think it stops this game. It gets a call. Hopefully get a
yeah,
call early. Let's let first possession, let's get a call and get having them putting the ball. That's what I vision seeing.
yeah. And if a scenario plays out like I'm kind of predicting, I think that penalty would come early. In the maybe even the first drive, first quarter, and hopefully it's not, in the fourth quarter or well, that could benefit us. But what I'm saying is hopefully it doesn't go a whole game of happening before they call it. You would like to see that call coming right away. So that sets the precedence for the rest of the game that, hey, you can't do that. Yeah, I listen to that same podcast. It's an interesting comment, and I agree with them. Why wouldn't you do that? But it's getting kind of ridiculous, especially because Parsons is undersized. So it's like he's beating you with speed and athleticism, but an undersized defensive end getting held in constant hands to the face, it's pretty ridiculous. But we'll try not to spend all our time talking about that. Um, let's try to wrap up some of the thoughts from the Commanders game. One thing I wanted to bring up before um, about the outcome of the Commanders game is what are your thoughts on Brandon Aubrey and those couple misses he had? Good or bad?
Yeah,
Because I've heard both things.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a monkey off his back. Um,
Mhm,
to get that miss out of the way. The block wasn't his fault. Defender ran in unblocked, someone missed an assignment, and he gets kick blocked. It's unfortunate that ended the streak. When he hit the upright, bounced the wrong way. I mean, he's probably had a couple of those go in, and he
mhm,
was due to miss one. He came back, he drilled the 50-yarder, good from 60, 65. He drilled it, hit the back of the net, right down the middle. Full confidence in Aubrey. He made um, he made six um, kicks on Sunday, if you
total.
count the extra
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
So I mean, he missed one. I mean, he had one blocked. He made six kicks. It makes him human. He's back to a
yeah.
normal kicker for one game, but I think we get the All Pro. We get the All Pro back for the playoffs. Aubrey's not going to miss. Not at home, especially. He's not going to miss.
Yeah, I agree. He's been absolutely cash from deep, especially at home. I think he could probably hit a 70-yarder at home, so I don't really worry
Look, I
about
hope
that.
he gets an opportunity. Maybe today, 2 seconds left in the first half. We get the ball back and try a 70-yarder. Why
Yeah,
not?
why not?
Today could be the day.
Yeah, that would be
I
pretty
hope it.
awesome.
I think and I think that's how the Detroit game ends. If Detroit gets a 2 point conversion, if they decide to follow the rules and report the right guy eligible and make the 2 point conversion legitimately when they're actually
Right.
guarding the guy, Aubrey comes back, drills a 70-yarder, and we walk away either way. It would have been fun to see.
Yeah, I thought the same. I obviously am glad how that turned out because, I don't know about how my heart rate would have been if he was kicking that for the win against Detroit. But yeah, I mean, I think that got overlooked when everyone was diving into the fiasco of the 2-point conversion. It's like, hey, we had 27 seconds left, and probably the best. Not probably. I would say he's the best long kicker in the league at
Yeah,
home right
and
now, and
and I think they
and
had
that
two
that's a huge
timeouts
weapon to
too.
have. Yeah, they at least had one. But I think you're right. I think they
Yeah,
had a couple.
yeah, they might have used one on. I think they had three, and I think they used one on one of the made on the 2 point conversion when they came out, how they lined up, and then I think
Mhm.
Mike took one there. So I think we had two timeouts. But yeah, that's in the past. But Aubrey, he's gold, man. I love watching him kick. I feel like his motion is so smooth, and you're going to get the same result every time. I don't feel like he's swinging his legs or his hips too much, where he might pull the ball. I just have a good feeling every time he's kicking the ball. The only thing that makes me nervous now is somebody missing their assignment. We can't let that happen again. Another positive, you win
Yeah.
38-10, you can figure out what happened in these situations and fix them. And it didn't cost you the game. So everyone knows their assignment this week. No blocks. Aubrey's drilling the ball down the middle. He's not going to bounce it off the upright. He got that out of the way. I think we're good.
Yeah, it was interesting to have, you know, we could keep watching that game because that was probably the biggest moment and the biggest takeaway of the game for me was that last field goal that he had the opportunity to kick. And I love that the team wanted to set him up for that, and the coaches did as well. Obviously, if he misses that one, I'm a lot more nervous going into this game, but they trusted him and they set him up at the end there, even in garbage time. So shout out to the coaching staff for doing that. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and
all right, so
good job, Cooper Rush, getting him down there into scoring range. Cooper was
yeah,
throwing the ball
absolutely.
nice.
Yeah, he was. Um, So yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good we got all the takeaways we need from the Washington game. Those two games as a whole, it was good after the Bills and Dolphins games to get your confidence back um and end on a high note. And obviously we didn't really need the win, which is crazy to think because the Eagles are in shambles, but you would always rather
Clean.
go into the season on a win. I mean, think about last year coming into the playoffs with a fresh
Yeah.
loss to a bad football team. So they took
Yeah.
care of business and ended on a high note. So now that we've talked about that, let's get into a little bit of the injury report for our game on Sunday. Just looking at the most recent one right now via ESPN, the Packers have Jair Alexander. That's a big one. It's questionable. So I guess apparently a couple days ago or Thursday at practice, they were doing a walkthrough, and he stepped on someone's foot and somehow rolled his own ankle. So that's bad for them. AJ Dillon, their backup running back, is doubtful. Christian Watson is questionable. Um, and then Luke Tenuta, offensive tackle, is on the IR, so he's out. Um, I'm assuming all these guys that are either questionable or doubtful, other than AJ Dillon, he might actually not play, or he might get a couple snaps, but I don't see him probably playing. But the rest of these guys, I assume they're going to play, but be very limited. And I think the biggest one is Jair Alexander here. The Packers early in the week were excited to have him, even though he's had tons of off the field issues and issues with Matt LaFleur. They're pretty I guess, excited, or they thought that he would be the answer for CeeDee Lamb, even though CeeDee torched him last year at Lambeau. But they were hoping that that he would be back for this game to guard Lamb the entire game. So with him being limited, that's a huge hit on the Packers defense, already struggling defense. So what are your thoughts on the injury report?
Well, as I said about Gilmore, the Cowboys need to go after him immediately with their passing attack. And if he wants to go on one with CD, good luck. Nobody's been able to solve that mystery the whole year. So they're going to probably drop into some zone at some point to just try to contain him. But yeah, if he tweaked his ankle and he's going to see some contact with our short passes, Ferguson, tackle Ferguson one time with a bum ankle, and you might be done for the day. Is you know
Yeah.
how I feel
And
about Fergie.
yeah, that's right. What do you say about Fergie?
Fergie ain't no bitch.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that guy. So, um, I have the stats here for when Jair Alexander matched up with CD last year. CD ended up with 11 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on 15 targets at Lambeau. And he's not having nearly the year he's having this year, and his chemistry with Dak is on another level right now. So that's gonna be tough for Green Bay. They can try to shut down CD, or you don't shut down CD, you can contain him. But the Cowboys are filled with depth at the wide receiver position and with good tight end play. There's really, on paper, no slowing down this offense. So, I expect if for some reason Jair comes out and plays an unbelievable game, that Cooks will get his, that Jalen Tolbert will get a few targets, that maybe we involve Michael Gallup, but I think Ferguson has a big game too. Um, so,
Who's
I mean,
this
I'm
Michael Gallup you speak of?
yeah, I know. Exactly. But we have plenty of guys that could step up and make up for any um receptions that CD won't get. I just don't see CD being limited even with a healthy Jair. So, man, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for Green Bay to
And
try and stop this
you
offense in
know,
general.
the elephant in the room is the home field. When we play at home, CD he plays bigger than he does even on the road, and he's big either way. But I don't see anyone slowing us down at home. That's why getting that 2 seed, it was just a blessing from above because no one saw it coming a month ago. It's amazing. Now we got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think what makes CD so dangerous at home is, the experts talk about how good of a route runner he is and how precise his routes are. And I think by being on your home field, you know exactly how the turf feels. And every step he takes at home is planned and accurate. And he's just killing guys on route running at home. And I
Yeah,
think, that beautiful field at AT&T Stadium feels better under his cleats, and he can run his routes perfectly there. And I think Dak
yeah.
plays better at home too. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm not really worried about the offense in general. Um, on the Cowboys side, we've touched on the Gilmore injury, knowing that he's going to play, but we don't really know until we see. Um, the offensive line has been banged up. We expect to have everyone kind of back there, but they have been banged up towards the end of the year. But I got to tell you, I've been impressed with our offensive line depth and what McCarthy has done with that group. So, are you worried at all about the offensive line going into this?
It might seem arrogant to say this, but I was actually kind of hoping that we would have TJ Bass or Hoffman in the lineup this week. That's how confident I am. Both them boys were nasty last week. They took over. We ran the ball 31 first downs. I mean, I have no problem with those guys going in the game. So I expect Zach Martin to be 100% because he was sick. He had a stomach thing. So his
Right.
body has gotten an extra week of rest, and he's done with the stomach virus. Whatever he had, it's out of him. He's probably gotten plenty of IVs. He's probably protein loaded, and he's ready to roll. A
Yeah.
little concern with Tyler,
Hmm.
maybe his lateral movement, but everything I'm reading about this plantar injury, since it was a complete tear, complete break, is that he'll be okay. It's just going to be painful. Well, that boy's nasty. He's nasty.
Mhm.
He's gonna punch you in the face, gonna spit on you, whatever it takes. I'm not worried about his having a little foot pain.
Right.
He'll be just fine. So I'm fully confident. But if either one of those guys are not 100%, I need them on the bench because
Mhm.
TJ come right in, Hoffman will come right in. We're good to go. I'm feeling good about our offensive line depth for sure.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what Green Bay tries to do, whether they try to really pressure Dak or not. I would assume they will. Um, but I think Dak has shown all year that if you pressure him, he's just going to eat you up. And if you leave our weapons open one on one down the field after bringing pressure, like you are going to get burnt. So it'll be interesting to see what the Green Bay defense does. I've heard Green Bay fans all year complain about. Um, their defense and Barry as their DC calling awful games. All of a sudden, they claim they're the hottest team in the league, and there's nothing wrong with their defense. But all year I've heard those complaints. So I don't think scoring is going to be an issue at all in this game. So now that we've kind of talked about the injuries, let's get into some of our pregame and some of the stats for this game and some of the big storylines. So first, let's talk about um, we might as well get it out of the way first. Let's talk about the history against Green Bay, the most recent history, and your thoughts on whether, because my generation of Cowboys fans will think we don't beat Green Bay in the playoffs, but I know from history lessons, and I guess Green Bay doesn't like to do their history, but there's only two quarterbacks to ever beat the Cowboys in the playoffs: Bart Starr and Aaron Rodgers. I think the issue with the Cowboys against the Packers has been more Aaron Rodgers than it is the Packers itself. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think the streak ends this weekend and we start to be the frustrating team for Green Bay instead of the other way around, like it was in the 90s into the early, yeah, in the 90s?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention first, and you read my mind. Um, we own the Packers in the playoff in the '90s too. I don't have this in front of me, so forgive me if I get this off by one or two. But I believe we beat them twice in two NFC championships, and once in another round. I believe we were 3-0 in the '90s against Favre. Um, in his Super Bowl run, when they did finally win, they did not go through the Cowboys. So, um, growing up as a kid, '70s and '80s, the Packers just weren't very good. They weren't even making the playoffs. They got good in the '90s. The Cowboys were their Achilles heel. That changed, and it was Aaron Rodgers, 100%. Aaron Rodgers came in, he changed that. He owned us. He frustrated us. He got lucky at times, but he brought that swagger to the stadium. I don't think there's anybody on this team that Green Bay has that was a part of that. Um,
Right.
but,
I think there's Yeah, I think there's one guy, one or two guys on their team, other than Aaron Jones is one of them, and I forget the other guy, but yeah,
okay,
that they were on that
yeah, that's
team
true.
in 2016. And that was a very young Cowboys team, and we don't have a lot of familiar faces from that time either. We have moved on quite a bit since 2016. Um, So and Dak and Zeke were rookies then. So that was a good team. I think we all felt in 2016 that, hey, we may be the one seed in the NFC, but we are a very young and inexperienced team. And so they were able to get us, and Rodgers was able to do what he had to do. Um, but this needs to end this weekend. And I also have realized that the Packers have never lost in AT&T Stadium. So there's a lot of things out there that the Cowboys need to get rid of some demons this weekend against the Packers. I believe they will, but they just need to go out and do the damn thing. So
Well,
yeah, I think we're good.
you know how. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, don't just look in recent years. Aaron Rodgers is gone, even though I guess apparently he's trying to go to the game, which whatever. I don't know what his deal is. We all know he's a very interesting figure out there, but um, that doesn't have anything to do with this game for me. Do you think that? I mean, I know they hear the news out there, but do you think the players are really thinking about how? teams, they might be wearing the same uniform as those guys, but this isn't the same team in the past. Um, so do you worry about that at all?
No, and I will hope that this team remembers a year ago when they had that fourth quarter lead in Lambeau and they let it slip away. And I think we need to come in with a chip on our shoulder as not the young and up and coming team like Green Bay,
Hmm.
but we want to get you back for what you did to us last year when we had that victory in hand. And we're going to let you know right now that's a different quarterback you're bringing into the building, and this is a new era, and we're the big dog now. So good job getting to the playoffs. See you next year. That's what we need to know by the third quarter. I hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a huge statement game for the Cowboys, and I think, they're ready for it. I don't see, obviously you're gonna have some playoff nerves, but I think this team is confident, and I don't really, and like you said, it could be some extra motivation for these guys. You know, I see a lot of disrespect coming that even though, we're the 2 seed, they're the 7 seed, which also, by the way, since the playoffs have expanded and a 7 seed has never won a game in the playoffs. But I hope the Cowboys take that a little personally and say, even though we're the 2 seed and are a much better team, that people are saying we can't beat the Packers in the playoffs. So, you always want that locker room bulletin board material there. So I'm kind of glad there is, and I really hope that we can get this done. And we have a lot of friends I know that are Packers fans. Um, Growing up in the Midwest in Indiana. Um, so I had to deal with that a lot, and I'm ready to rub it in their faces a little bit. So um, I'm talking my smack this week. I'm not backing down from any Packers fans. They should know that they're the underdog and they have a much larger task at hand to get this win. So I'm ready to throw it back in their face a little bit. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm confident. Um, Let's see. There's plenty of other storylines here. One of them I wanted to bring up is the Packers are, a very popular team in the NFL. Do you think they travel well to this game? What do you think the percentages are of Packers fans at AT&T Stadium tomorrow?
Unfortunately, I think they travel extremely well, and they didn't expect to be in the playoffs, and they're in the playoffs, which makes it a big deal. And I would assume they're going to have some player or some fans traveling in buying tickets. You know how Jerry World is. It's 109,000, and there's a lot of standing room only tickets. There's a lot of opportunities for opposing teams. However, I think our fans have been loud all year. They're fired up. We're going to be in a whiteout. We're going to have the white towels. We're going to drown those Packers fans out. If you need a number, I'm going to probably say they'll have 10,000 Packers
Okay.
fans. I'd
Yeah, that's
say,
about what I was thinking. I was thinking 10 to 15%. The only thing that worries me is I've been checking ticket prices all week long because I was, kind of considering going to this game. Um, so I've been checking up on the secondhand markets, and the tickets just seem to keep dropping and dropping. I think, you can get upper level tickets for around 150 to 200 each, and you can get standing room only for like 50 to 75 bucks. I think probably a lot of the season ticket holders know they're really, banking on the Cowboys having multiple playoff games. They may be sitting this one out and getting ready for the divisional round. Um, that's the only thing that worries me. But you know, that's like you said, it's a typical occurrence for Jerry World. So I don't think the Cowboys players will think anything of it. And I think our crowd will be great and loud, and you won't really notice it. But I'm sure you'll hear. Um, or maybe even see on TV, they may be showing big groups of Packers fans, but I don't think that really concerns me. Um,
yeah,
so,
we deal with
if
that.
they
We deal with that every home game, and they've won their last 16 home games. So
yeah,
it's not the crowd noise either way. It's just they just play well at home.
for sure. Um, one one last storyline. Let's just talk about it. We'll touch on it real quick. The Mike McCarthy thing. It was definitely felt like a bigger deal last year for me. He wasn't able to go back into Lambeau and get it done. And we all know that McCarthy parted ways from the Packers and won a Super Bowl with the Packers, but they wanted to move on and move to Matt LaFleur. We can talk at length all day about who's the better coach. Packers fans seem to just automatically think that McCarthy was bad, LaFleur is good. I don't personally see how LaFleur is considered a better coach than McCarthy at this point because he hasn't had much success, especially in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. They were never able to get it done. I think he's done a great job with this young team this year and getting them to the playoffs. But I think that's kind of you know Matt LaFleur's MO right now is that he's able to build a good team. He seems like a good young coach with good schemes, and he's able to motivate his teams and get them into the playoffs, and then kind of coach a little tight and not get it done in the playoffs. And hey, I'm not going to act like the Cowboys have been able to get it done, anytime recently in the playoffs either. And we haven't seen that from Mike McCarthy either. He's gotten some playoff wins, but never, as many as we wanted. So I consider it kind of even. I think McCarthy uses it as motivation, but I think it's a big deal that it's in Dallas and this isn't the first time he's facing the Packers again. Even though they lost that game last year, I think that was the more emotional one. I'm hoping it was the more emotional event for him, and he's kind of gotten over that. What are your thoughts on Mike McCarthy, Matt LaFleur drama storyline going into this game?
I mean, I think, the proof is in the results. Right now, McCarthy's obviously had the results. LaFleur, he has not had those results yet. And I think that makes this a big game. I think you could kind
Hmm.
of start leaning one way or the other before their careers are over. Who's a better coach with game like this?
Yeah,
If you're Mike
100%.
McCarthy, you can't have a 7 seed coming in and get in out coaching you. Time management, I mean clock management, trick plays inside the red zone, all that crap that we've been through. That now it looks like it was Kellen Moore calling those plays because we're
Right.
playing a good conservative offensive scheme that works. So I think Mike gets the W and he's the better coach. I don't want to think about it, but I mean, if it went the other way, then the argument would easily be made that he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think this is a big statement game for most coaches or for both coaches. I think the pressure lies more on McCarthy, just because of, like you said, being the better team, having that home field advantage, and having an older, more experienced team where it seems like the Packers right now didn't expect to be at this point, but here they are, and more to come on the LaFleur. I think they'll see him out through like the Jordan Love era and kind of obviously they loved him at first, but that seat will get a little hotter in the next coming years. Um, but he seems to be fine for not. Whereas McCarthy really needs to win this game. He doesn't just need to win this game; he needs to win multiple rounds in the playoffs, especially this year with how we are going into the playoffs. Um, I think that's it on storylines. We could hit on those all day, but we want to keep this show, keep it rolling. So I got a few stats for us, and let me know how the stats that I'll read for you, let me know any thoughts and if that's going to hold up on Sunday. So obviously, we're talking about two great offensive teams here. The Packers have struggled on defense so far this year, but they are saying that they are very hot on offense, and I've even heard Packers say they're the hottest team in the league. I have some thoughts on that. They were able to get it done down the stretch, but they've had some bad losses this year and some really good wins. So this team is kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing here. But they did win their last three games. They put up good points in those wins over Carolina and Minnesota. Maybe not not so much against Chicago next week, even though they drove the ball really well. But I think for the Cowboys, we're expecting a lot of success on offense. Now, if the Packers were to slow the Cowboys down at all, I would think it would have to come from turnovers. So that's one thing that I would worry about. But then I looked up some stats, and the Packers are second last in the league when it comes to interceptions, intercepting the other team, and they're also ranked 27 out of 32 in forced fumbles. So we all know that turnovers can happen, whenever, but this isn't the team that has shown that they're able to do that this entire year, with the exception of probably that Detroit game where they had they must have had like on Thanksgiving Day, they must have gotten like at least 4 turnover or 3 or 4 turnovers in that game, if I can remember. That's probably what's making up, like, their entire stats for the whole year. So if you take that game out, this is not a team that forces turnovers. So that's bringing some confidence to me as well. And this offense this year has shown that they don't turn the ball over often. So any thoughts on that? Do you think we'll struggle with turnovers at all or have anything to worry about?
No, no, no. I mean, I don't care if they're number one in the league right now. Dak's not putting us in situations where we turn the ball over. You know, a tip pass interception last week. That's what you're a ball bounces the wrong way or punt hits somebody's back, something like that. I might give them one turnover. I don't see turnovers being an issue for Dallas at all.
Yeah. I hope not, and I don't think so either. Obviously, it can always happen, but hey, we're 17 games in. You are what you are at this point. This is not a team, a defense that gets those turnovers. So it doesn't really worry me either. Um, but again, this could be a shootout. We talk about the Cowboys. They're the fourth ranked scoring offense in the league, and the Packers are at 8 right now. So both have had success on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we talk about the Cowboys having a much better defense than the Packers. We all know that. There's really no arguing there. Um, the run game is one thing where I think the Packers fans are thinking that they could exploit Dallas on. We all watched the Bills game. We know that was a bad game for the Cowboys, but overall, I don't think this team is as bad against the run as they're being made out to be. Um, Actually, if you look at the stats, the Cowboys are slightly better against the run than the Packers defense are. Um, but I think in the last few games that we've seen after we got gashed against the Bills, they've really stepped up, and I think they've done a good job stopping the run against some really good running, offenses teams like the Dolphins and the Lions.
Yeah, and the Dolphins have run the ball on everyone. That wasn't just a Cowboys thing. They they were leading the league last I looked in rushing yards. I'm not sure how it finished, but Jonathan Hankins. There's my answer. He's back.
Ever heard of them?
He's healthy. He's playing. That's the difference. All these games that you mentioned that we struggle or played okay against the run, he was out. He's
Yeah.
back. He's back, and in his absence, we found that Demarcus Lawrence can become a run stopper with the blink of an eye. So, um, I'd like to say that in his absence, Mozzie stepped up, but I can't tell you that. I can't say that.
No. I also think
But others did.
I was gonna say, I think Parsons has played really well at stopping the run as well. So I think other guys have stepped up and hey, it might have been a struggle there and we might have dropped some games, but maybe, the Cowboys have learned something about themselves and they took that,
Yeah,
like you said earlier in the show, it's good to have those weaknesses pointed out. No one's gonna have a perfect season. You're gonna have a weakness. Our weakness right now is our run game, but I think they've focused on that and hopefully they'll be able. I don't think you have to completely stop the run against the Packers either. You just have to contain it. Um, and I think we should go in straight into, some of the keys for success for the Cowboys. I think it's playing good complementary football, right? Yes, the Packers could come out and run the ball well in the first quarter, first half, but if the offense keeps scoring points, are the Packers going to be able to keep up?
yeah,
Well, not if they're just running the ball. So, have our offense needs to help out our defense by putting a lot of points on the board and forcing the Packers to strictly pass the ball and take out that running game.
yeah. I see no reason why we can't. Our linebacker core right now is very fast.
Hmm.
I think that another thing that happened is a very underappreciated LVE was
Right.
put out for the year, and our linebackers that came in have kind of had to learn how to stop the run. They weren't in run stop situations. That was LVE's job. So um, we've gotten better at it, And now with Hankins back and the other guys around him had to step up, I think we should be well balanced. Like you said, I'd like to see a lot passing. I think we can get to Love. I think we can force him to turn the ball over. He's going to get a couple. He's going to hit. He's going to hit a couple. But you keep
Hmm.
coming after him and rush him and make him throw early. And Deron Bland might be working on a playoff pick six record.
Hey, there we go.
Start tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think, you really hit on it there, but Jordan Love has been good decent against blitzes, but not so great against pressures. And what I think that
Pressure.
is being a young quarterback and forcing him to go towards his first option, and which will lead you to a mistake like you just talked about. You give him time to evaluate the different options he has downfield. That's where he can hurt you. Um, but, you know, like great Packers teams in the past, I don't see the big long threat they have. Or I've heard that their tight ends are decent and they're pretty quick tight ends, but it's not like the great tight ends they've had in the past either. So I think the strong part of the Green Bay offense right now is Jordan Love is really good with play action. So again, it goes back to stopping that run game, and they're also good throwing the ball down the middle of the field. Um, but I think if you take time away, that you can't go directly down there either, and get in some of those third and long situations where you can't just dump the ball off down the middle of the field. So we'll see. But I have faith in this defense, and I really hope Parsons. We've seen him in the playoffs before. He's going to play pretty much every snap. He's going to be on uh, on Love. So they need to pressure him. They need to, like I said, take away that first option, and hopefully they can make some mistakes. The Cowboys have been the number one scoring off the defense. Sorry, they've been the number one scoring defense all year. So that would be huge if that comes into play in the playoffs. You have a team that can force turnovers and score off them, put you in scoring situations. That's going to be huge. I mean, if we get more than one turnover, I think this game could get out of hand really
Yeah.
quickly if we're looking at two or three turnovers. So
Yeah. Bringing up Micah Parsons, I just read a story yesterday, one of our linebackers, and I think it was Damone Clark, but I don't want to say for sure. One of them said there was a quarterback rolling out of the pocket and running, and there was a running back that was running out for a pass, and he had to choose who am I going to commit to. And then he saw Micah was chasing the quarterback, so he said, "Well, I guard the running back," and Micah ran down the quarterback and tackled him.
yeah,
So
he
when you
did.
got Micah
I
back
remember that
there,
play.
and that's the X factor. That's what Micah brings to the table. And he may not have got a sack on that play. It might have been a 1 yard or the quarterback threw it away. I'm not sure, but he made that play, and it's a game changing play. When you got a
Hmm.
guy that can do that, that can run like he can. And I mean, I'm sure he's missed tackles on run plays. I've never seen him miss a tackle on a quarterback. It seems like if he can get one hand on a quarterback, that quarterback's going down every time.
Yeah,
And he's got to be strong as an ox. It's impressive.
yeah, yeah. It really is. And definitely when you have mobile quarterbacks like Jordan Love, like that's huge to have that speed. So, I think if Love runs early, and because he steps up in the pocket and Mike is getting there too quickly, we've seen that in the past. I think he starts dropping back, and you see,
Yeah.
a play like you just mentioned. So, um, I feel good about it, but overall, it would be really nice to get some turnovers. Um, one more thing before we get to our game predictions. I've been thinking about this a lot. What do you think is the best play for the Cowboys when it comes to either kicking to start the game and playing defense first, or would you like the offense to get the ball first and get down the field and score?
No, we've been really good, and credit to McCarthy, we've been really good at double dipping. You get the
Hmm.
ball at the end of the first half, you score a touchdown or a field goal, and then you get the ball to start the second half and you go down and score. The double dip has worked. I believe, didn't we do it last week in
Yeah, we did.
Washington? Yeah, double dip, and then that's why you got your hat on in the fourth quarter because you double dipped. and you got a
Right.
two or three score lead going into the third, middle of the third quarter. So I want to kick the ball every time. Brandon Aubrey, among other records that he set this year, he is now the NFL all-time leader in touchbacks.
I
So
know, it's
you get
ridiculous. It's just
you
automatic.
get you should just walk out on the field and give Green Bay the ball at the 25 because it's just a formality. Brandon's going to kick it. The only question is, will his kickoff go through the uprights? That's all I
Mhm.
ever look for because no one's returning it.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think you kick the ball to Green Bay first and you let their offense come, their young, inexperienced offense and quarterback come onto the field, and the crowd's going to be their loudest that they are the entire
Yeah,
game. After the kickoff, everyone's going to be ready to go. It's the playoffs, the whiteout, they're going to be whipping the towels, and you get a 3 and out right away and you put your offense on the field. I think that goes a long way.
yeah,
Even if they were able to go down and get some points, which if you were asking me to bet on it, I would not expect them to march down the field on their first possession. Um,
yeah.
you never know,
No, the
but
the yeah, you never know. Perfect scenario is they go 3 and out and they have to actually kick a ball to Turpin, which
yeah,
unfortunately hasn't happened a lot this year.
hmm
But I'd love to see him get a return in the playoffs. He hasn't
yeah,
had a
that
lot
would
of
be
opportunities, but maybe today or tomorrow is the day. Maybe get an opportunity to return a punt for a score or set us up for a score.
yeah, that would be extremely nice. All right, so we've kind of we've talked at length about all the ways that this game could kind of go, what favors the Cowboys. I think the only, and we've kind of already alluded to it already, but I think the only way this game gets dicey is if we can't stop them on offense, and if we can't stop the run, and if we turn the ball over. But I think it all comes down to the run game and our run defense, and I think that'll be a big indicator. But like I said, even if they're able to establish a run, if our offense is putting up points at will, they can't do that for the entire game. So there's a lot of ways, on paper that the Cowboys can go out and take care of business. So I think we're ready to get into some actual predictions here. And we are recording this before any playoff games have started. So I would like to get, your take on all of our games coming up this weekend. Sound good?
Would love it.
All right, let me get to my schedule so I don't screw anything up. Okay, so first we'll go Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. That'll be the first kickoff today in Houston. Um, Let me see. I think Cleveland is currently a 2-point favorite. So let's not only pick the games, let's play the spread too. If we got any listeners that are looking for some betting advice.
Joe Flacco all the way. I think that spread is way too low. I think Cleveland handles it and handles it quite easily. When I see teams like Houston, where your goal is to make the playoffs, you met your goal, you're
Hmm.
done. And that's not Cleveland's goal. Cleveland went out and got Flacco because they have a Super Bowl caliber roster. I'm not saying they're going to be in the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying. But they got a roster that they put a guy like Flacco on, and they're good. Um, I think they win by 2 scores. I'm going to say
Wow.
27-13 Cleveland.
Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Cleveland has a good team, and it is the Cleveland Browns. But at the end of the day, I think they have built that team. This is really the year. Maybe they have a window
Yeah.
next year, but I think this is their window right now, and I like them doing some damage on the AFC side. Um, I'm taking them to win. I don't think they'll win by multiple scores. I have them winning a very Cleveland-like game, maybe by a touchdown or a last-second field goal when the game is tied.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that, the Texans have been super impressive this year. It's a pretty awesome story when you have a rookie quarterback coming in and doing, that type of
Yeah.
damage and making
He's
the
awesome.
playoffs. Yeah, and
Big
they've had a
fan.
great year. But I agree with what you said. I think, their goal is to get in the playoffs, much like the Packers, and, we'll see how they do. But I think Cleveland wins, and I think they cover a 2-point spread. Um, let's move on to the Ice Bowl. We have um, the Miami Dolphins, the 0-10 Miami Dolphins when the weather is under 40 degrees, which is an insane stat, playing in the division that they play in, and going into Kansas City in negative 30-degree real feels. What are your thoughts on this one? Oh, sorry. The Chiefs it opened at -3.5. They are currently at -4.5 favorites.
I think I honestly think this year Miami is the better team, but the way that Miami let that division slip out of their fingers, and now with the reality of going up in sub-zero temperatures to play a game is just too much to overcome. The conditions are so bad, I can't see a lot of points being scored, and Kansas City's fine with that. They win games. Andy Reid wins games, high score, low score, and everything in between. So I think Kansas City wins this game. Because of the weather, it's going to be low scoring. I'm going to say an ugly 17-13.
Okay. So you think Kansas City or you think Miami covers, but Kansas City gets the win?
I will agree with that. Yeah, and it's just the conditions. I don't see them throwing the ball around. The ball's going to feel like a made of lead when it hits your fingers
Yeah.
in that
Yeah,
weather.
that's gonna be miserable. And they can't really move the game because today's actually gonna be their warmest day of the weekend. It's gonna be worse tomorrow and
Yeah,
Monday. So, they gotta play this game. Um, yeah, man, this is gonna be
get
tough.
a
First of all,
retractable roof.
yeah, no kidding. This is why we are so thankful to get home field advantage in the playoffs. It's actually the weather in Dallas is not gonna be nice on Sunday either, but we don't have to worry about that. Um,
No, don't have to worry.
But yeah, this is an interesting one for me. I've been going back and forth. First of all, I would like to see what the hell um Mike McDaniels
Your
wears to
boy.
this game. I want to well, not only Frank the Tank, he's going to be a wreck, but I
Yeah,
want to see what McDaniels wears to this game. He's been coaching the entire season with joggers rolled up to his knees, looking
yeah.
like a complete douchebag. But I'll be interesting to see what he wears and if he vapes on the
I would
sideline.
say, the 1980s downhill skier, real colorful, big coat, and then you got the long
Puffy jacket.
pants, and then the big face mask. McDaniel come in rocking that,
He's going to
and it's
look
going to
like
be Dolphins colors. You got the
he should
orange, you
go.
got the baby blue, and the white. Your full skier, downhill skier, 1980s outfit. There you go.
That's what he should. That's exactly what he should wear. He should look like, Dumb and Dumber, when they went to
Yeah,
Aspen.
hey,
That's how he should
he's
dress.
not. It's not a stretch.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, like I said, we grew up in Indiana. We had a few days where it was this cold and we had school canceled. I mean, it's miserable out there. And I remember you making me go, shovel the driveway, and it was the first time I've had, like, snot, like, stuck to my face because it was frozen, icicles coming out of my nose, so I'll never forget how cold I was that day. Now I'm living in Southern Mississippi, so I'm getting spoiled by the weather, but I was walking the dogs this morning, and it was, like, 47 degrees, and I was like, "Man, it's pretty chilly out here," and I'm kinda bundled up in a hoodie, like, my Cowboys gear and sweatpants on, and I'm thinking, "It is gonna be 80 degrees colder than what it is here right now, and I'm chilly."
That's
Like, that is gonna be
that's insane.
insane. You can't even, like, fathom how cold it's gonna be. Um,
And
so
the
that
thing that's missed is no one's talking about how miserable it is for the fans. They're talking about, the playing conditions are not favorable, but can you imagine sitting 4.5 hours on some metal bench in that weather? It's just, I mean, you could die out there, and I'm not joking. I mean,
yeah,
that's dangerous.
yeah, it's kinda scary to think about, but we'll see. I remember we had a game, we had an Air Force football game where I went to school, and we were playing Utah State, and it was, like, my freshman year, and it was, like, in the 10s, like, 15, and, I mean, that was, like, the most miserable football game I've ever been to in my life, where we were,
Yeah.
like, huddling in the bathroom, like, at halftime to get warm, and I assume they're gonna have to do the same thing. So, yeah, be careful out
Yeah, and
there
it,
to
yeah,
all the Kansas City
and you
fans.
get, the higher you sit, the more wind is going to be blowing in your face and the wind chill. And
Yeah.
hey, you want a few Super Bowls, you should have the money to get a retractable roof over there, guys. Come on, step up your game. I'd like to see all 32 teams have that. I don't want to take weather away from the game, but in these are emergency conditions, and
Yeah.
we can get the game in if we have a roof, and we can't get the game in. We're moving games because of these stadiums that don't have an option.
Yeah, it's gotten ridiculous, and because you have the most meaningful games within the months of the worst weather you're gonna have in every
Yeah,
climate, that we're talking way more about the weather than we are the actual game, and
yeah.
you don't that would suck for Miami to go in there and lose strictly because of the weather conditions. But anyway, my prediction for this game, I'm gonna go a little rogue here. I think Miami wins. I'm gonna pick Miami here. I think they cover and they win.
What? You kidding
And
me?
here's why.
Win?
I think they might actually benefit from this weather if they show up. Um, I see this
If they
team.
show.
Yeah, I mean, if they actually come out and play well and play how they have the potential to, I think they can win this game. I have not been high on Kansas City this year, and you think about
No.
how bad that receiving core has been at dropping balls this year.
Yeah,
Think about them in negative 30-degree temperatures. They're not
yeah,
going to be able to catch anything. Um, if Pacheco will probably have a big game. He's going to run the ball really well, but I think if you keep this low scoring, I think it benefits Miami because you know Tua in these big games has made mistakes late in these shootouts, and I think he did it in Philly this year. He did it against the Bills recently. They were able to get it done against the Cowboys, but I think that was a fluky game. But I think if they keep it low, they could squeak out with like a 20 to 17 game. So that's going to be one of my upsets for the weekend. They're going to happen. Um, I'm going to take Miami. I was originally going with the Steelers for my upset, but I can't do that. I think the only upset, I guess Cleveland would tech. No, Cleveland's not an upset, even though they're a lower seed. They're favored, and Vegas has them favored, so I don't consider that an upset. But my one upset on the AFC side will be the Dolphins. I think it's a good team,
no,
and I can.
you make sense. If they can run the ball, they do run the ball better. If Tua can run a little bit, he hasn't all year. He should be able to. But I think that the mental, like you said, will they show up? Because
Mhm.
they're broken. I mean, they let their division slip away on a punt return from a
Yeah.
hometown boy where I'm living right now that threw that block, Puna Ford, Hilton
Hey.
Head Island, proud. He threw that block that sprung him loose. That's what
Yeah.
won the game. It wasn't Josh Allen that won
Yeah.
that game. It was
No.
that punt return.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. That should be a good one. I'll be watching that from my warm couch in southern Mississippi, feeling
Amen.
terrible for all those fans. So this game was supposed to be our third game of the weekend, but now they have moved the Buffalo game to Monday at 3:30. But let's pick that one real quick. Um, Pittsburgh is going into Buffalo as currently 10-point road dogs. That's tough. Um, I mean, any thoughts on this? Does Pittsburgh stand a chance in this game?
Not enough points. Buffalo's going to win easily. Let's go Buffalo. That's a team that is underachieved all year and still found themselves as a 2 seed. I don't see them getting to the Super Bowl because they're too inconsistent, but they're just a much better team. Um, I think they start firing on all cylinders for this one round, and then because of their inconsistency, next week might be a problem. But I think it's going to be a laugher. I would say 31-10, 31-10 Buffalo.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Buffalo gets this done, and
I hope Josh
not.
isn't listening. Sorry, Josh, but it's reality.
Yeah, we have a good friend Josh out there that's a Pittsburgh fan, but I think he's happy to be in the playoffs as well. Um,
Yeah.
not to throw any more jabs at Green Bay. Actually, I don't really feel bad for them, but when I hear Green Bay say that they're the hottest team in the league, I immediately point to the Buffalo Bills and say, "This is the hottest team in the league." This is a team that not
Yep.
only was able to come back this year and make the playoffs, like they had to go through a gauntlet of a really tough schedule, and I think they're going to be extremely dangerous in the playoffs. I think
Had to go through
move,
the gauntlet, baby. They went through the
yeah,
gauntlet.
yeah, they kind of propelled themselves um,
Yeah,
by that Cowboys win, but hey, it happens. It's the NFL. Um,
we're happy
I
to
think
help.
yeah, exactly. It's all those Super Bowls we had to beat y'all in. Um, so, it all comes back around. But I think by moving this game, so the original like temperature and weather for this game was going to be 65-mile-an-hour winds and snowing. I think if that was the case, Pittsburgh actually had a chance,
Yeah, yeah,
because you take away the ability to throw the ball at all. Pittsburgh fans were
yep.
were they were foaming at the mouth
They're
at that
begging for it.
opportunity.
Yep.
So I think the governor of New York, not only I think they could have played this game, but I think she stepped in to help out the team because I think by moving this game, it really benefits Buffalo. Um, so yeah, I take Buffalo and the points there. I think they'll cover that 10-point spread. It's big, but I think they do, and I think the Steelers have some serious um, figuring out to do with Mike Tomlin. Whereas, are we going to just keep doing this where we can barely make it in the? I know the guy's never had a losing record, but he is not getting us to that next level. I think the Steelers have a lot to think about in the offseason.
I don't think the quarterback's getting him to the next level. Mike Tomlin needs a quarterback.
That's true. That is very true. Okay, let's get to one of the probably for most the most interesting matchup of the weekend. You got the LA Rams going into Detroit. Detroit is currently 3-point favorites in this game. That game will be the first playoff game played at Ford Field in I don't know, a long time, longer than I've been alive. So, well, the first one ever in Ford Field, but in Detroit in general, the first time they've had a home playoff game. So good for them. I used to cheer for Detroit a lot. Not after a couple weeks ago, I'm getting a little sick of them, but that's a story for a different time. We'll see if we see them again in the playoffs. Every Detroit fan I've talked to has said they can't wait to see us in the playoffs. So we'll see if we can see that matchup again. But what are your thoughts on LA going into Detroit in Stafford going back in?
I mean, my gut tells me Detroit's a better team, but there's something about Detroit, unfortunately, that they don't get it done in these kind of games. And there's a guy that really, really wants to get it done, and his name is Matt Stafford.
Hmm.
And he wants to get a win in Detroit. And it's personal. It really
Yeah.
is. And I think he's the better quarterback. He's a more experienced quarterback, Super Bowl champion quarterback. The Rams squeak it out because Detroit goes for two when they could have put it into overtime.
Don't
And
do
it
that. Don't do that.
31-30
Uh,
LA Rams on a failed 2-point conversion. And
oh
that's
man.
Dan Campbell's last game in Detroit. No, they'd keep him either way. He's done a good
Yeah.
job. But
Yeah.
I think he's a gambler, and I'm being serious. I think he's going to do something to screw that game up. He's going to run a fake, or he's going to go for two when he shouldn't have. And the Rams, I think they're the better coached and better quarterback, and they got that playoff experience. And I think they squeak it out. They're not the better team, but I think they squeak it out.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you here. I think the Rams win too in a lot of the similar ways. I think we joke about Dan Campbell and I respect the guy too. I think he's done a fantastic job turning that franchise around, but I think he's gonna have to pull it back a little bit, and I don't think he is until he loses a game like this. And then he's gonna have to sit down and talk with the front office and his coaching staff in Detroit and realize that there's a time to gamble and there's a time to pull it back. You can't just gamble all the time. I know that from experience as an avid sports bettor. You can't bet on every game. When you're cold, you're cold. And he keeps doubling down, and we saw it in the Cowboys game. And when that works when you don't have as good of a team, but when you have a good team like the Lions are, you don't need to gamble that much. and I think it's going to hurt him in this game. I think there's so many emotions going in this game for Detroit that they just fall short, unfortunately. And I think this team is just like a year or two away from being a potential NFC champion caliber team. Unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with the Cowboys, but like I said, that's a story for a different time. I think a lot of focus has been on Stafford this week, but not enough on Jared Goff. I think,
Yeah,
you know, there is a lot more pressure on Goff than there is Stafford. I think, Stafford's experience, he's been there. He was with Detroit and they've kind of made it personal with him. He's gone and won a Super Bowl. And, I think he can go in there and just totally dice up the Detroit defense. Whereas you got to think about Goff, where his team got rid of him to Detroit and then immediately wins a Super Bowl. And he's
yeah,
having to face them again, and I think that that might get in his head, but I think it should be a great game. I think it'll be a shootout. Um,
yeah.
but I'm gonna take
It's
I'm gonna take LA Rams, and I think the over under is at 51. I think I would hammer that. I think it's gonna be like I could see this being like a 35-31 type game, so
and
that should be a good one.
Cowboys fans need to understand also. We want the Rams to win that game,
Yeah, definitely.
and then they could go up into San Francisco, and we could deal with the Tampa or the Eagles,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, what can the Rams do to help us out? You could host a NFC Championship game. So I think you put a little side note on a game like that and say that we want this to happen. I pick them because I believe they're going to win, but we also want them as Cowboys fans. We want to set ourselves up, keep those games at home as long as we can, and that's one thing that will really help is if the Rams win this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We didn't get into it on this show, but I think our post-game show from the next game, as long as the Cowboys take care of business, we'll talk about obviously the full bracket and how that's going to work out. But yeah, I totally agree with you. If LA were able to go in there and win this game, it could really help us out because I think they're very dangerous against the 49ers. They know them well, they're
Yeah,
division rivals, and
yeah,
I think they have a great chance of beating San Fran. All right, let's talk about our beloved foes, the Philadelphia Eagles, going into Tampa, totally just stumbling, rumbling, fumbling into the playoffs. You just hate to see it. The Eagles were just short of NFC East champions this year, but not really because it was a full game. Um, I personally, if you ask me, I was never in doubt, but hey, here we are. Um, so the Eagles, the fraudulent Eagles, are going into Tampa Bay playing your beloved Baker Mayfield. We have different thoughts on Baker, but Philly is a 3-point road favorite going into Tampa. Thoughts on this game?
and I want to agree with it and say Philly's the better team and the more experienced playoff team, and they're going on the road to a softer environment. Tampa doesn't bring the noise. We saw that last year with Dallas. They can play outside. It's going to be warmer than what they're used to. But there's something going on in that locker room, and it's a mutiny of some sort. I mean, stuff is being leaked, stuff is being talked about, and there's evidence of it on the sideline. I'm not sure they want to win the game. I don't know if they want the coach out. I don't know what if they don't like the quarterback. Something's going on, and I would hesitate to put any money down on Philly if I were a betting man.
Yeah,
I think it's a
I
toss. It's
definitely
a
want to put
toss
money
up.
on.
It's a toss up. I'm just gonna say, you know, you won Tampa won 9-0 in Carolina. I'm gonna say Tampa wins this game 9-6.
9-6. Okay. So bet the under.
Baker,
The over under is currently at 45 points. I think that's way higher than it should be.
I mean, they scored 9 points on Carolina's defense. I don't know how we're gonna get them more points against Philly. So
True.
9-6. And the
Okay.
six they get are off turnovers and field goal range because
Yeah.
they're broken. The Eagles' offense is broken. I don't know what's going on over there. I feel sorry for you guys over there Philly.
No, you don't. That's a lie. That is a lie. If the Eagles went
Call me
0
if you need me.
17 every year, I wouldn't feel bad. Yeah,
It's
I
not
wouldn't feel
enough.
bad for them at all.
It's,
You'll find out
you
as
were
we continue to make this podcast, but there's no love lost for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I
you
expect the
were
same
the
back.
yeah. The Eagles fans will tell you that one is better than five when it comes to Super Bowls. But when it comes to seeds, five is better than two. They've been arguing that all week. Both subjects. I'm not making this up. So
It
we
is,
got it. We got
yeah,
an educational problem over in the public schools in Philly. Apparently, we don't know that that five is greater than one, and we don't know when it comes to seeds that two is better than five. So there's some problems there, but you got to feel for them.
yeah. I don't understand that logic at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. But man, I don't want to pick the Eagles. I'm gonna pull some kind of reverse psychology here, and I'm gonna take them. I think they get it done, but I don't. Man, it's gonna be tough. AJ Brown is out, and what is Hurts? How is he gonna play? I mean, we saw Dak deal with
His
a
finger. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that finger is as important as a thumb, but it's not his pinky finger. He's gripping the ball. It looked like his middle finger, didn't it?
yeah, it
I
was. It
mean,
was his
I've
middle
seen a
finger.
lot. I'm used to seeing a lot of middle fingers up when you see somebody wearing an Eagles jersey, and I'm pretty sure his was up last week.
Yeah, yeah, good move.
So I don't know. I don't know. He's hurt, and they're missing AJ Brown, and they're in disarray. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't know either, but I think it's yeah, like I said, like you said, I think it's a low scoring game. I think we have to deal with the Eagles for one more week. Wherever they go next, they're going to be in trouble, but I think they squeak out of this game. I definitely hope Tampa Bay wins. Um, but man, I just think the Eagles slightly get it done because the Bucks offense is not capable of scoring points. They got the receivers for it,
Yeah.
but your boy Baker. But who knows? I mean, the Eagles aren't in
Baker's
bad shape,
he's
so
Baker's bipolar. I mean, he might
yeah,
toss 300 tomorrow. You just Monday
it's
night.
true.
He he might get
Yeah, and their
he can't
defense,
get it done. Yeah, I mean their defense is great, and if he gets on he starts throwing the ball well, and he's having one of those nights. He's hot and cold. So
yeah,
I don't think he'll. I'm like I said, I'm going 9-6. So that's how much faith I have in that. But what if he gets hot? That would be nice to see, but I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be ugly.
yeah, interesting for sure. Ugly game, I agree with. All right, let's get to our marquee matchup for this week in our opinions. We have the 9-8 7 seed Green Bay Packers coming into AT&T Stadium on Sunday at 4:30 Eastern. The 12-5 undefeated at home number 2 seed in the NFC East champs, Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are currently 7-point favorites, which is the second biggest spread of the weekend, and the over under is at 48.5, or actually currently at 50.5. ESPN predictors got the Cowboys at a 73.6% chance to win this game. We've talked about at length all the ways the Cowboys can win this game. Cowboy Reg, I'm going to need your unbiased, completely unbiased prediction for this game. Will the Cowboys get it done, and can they cover a 7-point spread at home?
Yes, and yes. I believe they will, and I don't. I'm gonna throw a wrench in this. I don't believe it's going to be CD. I believe it's going to be Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, and Jake Ferguson. That's going to be our three-headed monster. We're going to keep things short and over the middle. We're going to run the ball, control the clock. I've been saying 31-16 all week. The more I talk and listen to your stats and think about the way Jordan Love's playing and the confidence they have, I'm gonna give them a little bit more. I'm gonna go 31-20 Dallas. They cover. They score 4 touchdowns and a field goal. They run the ball a lot, and that's what keeps the score reasonably down. I think it's an under 50. I
Okay.
think 50 is a lot. I think we're under.
All right. Yeah, I
If it's
like it.
31-16, if it's 31-20, there's your over right there. That's 51. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that would
leave
just
I'm
hit
gonna
it.
leave you gamblers on the edge there. I've been saying
Yeah.
31-16 all week. I've put that on my Twitter page, 31-16. I don't want to backtrack on that, but I have a feeling they might score a little bit more. I'm gonna go. Let's change it. Let's go 31-17. 31-17. I'll give them one more point. Cowboys, they cover, but it's gonna be under.
All right. 31-17. Final answer there. Final answer.
That's it. Final answer.
All right.
What do you
Yeah,
got?
cool. Oh man. So obviously I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think this game needs to be close. All of our fans want to think that this is going to be a struggle. I do not believe that this game needs to be close at all. Could it be? Sure. It's the playoffs. It's the Green Bay Packers. They have nothing to lose, but I don't think this game should be close, and I don't think it necessarily will be. I see this game, and this is kind of interesting, and some of you might wonder what I'm saying here, but I'll explain it. I think this game is either a 10-point game or a 24-point game, and I'm gonna explain to you why. I think the Cowboys are up about 17 in the fourth quarter, and I think we either get a pick six at the end or we get an interception and score some points, or a fumble. We get a turnover and score some points in some fashion, or I think we're up 17 and the Packers may score a touchdown late because it's the playoffs and we're not really worried about it. But that's how I see this game going. So let's see. I'm going to go on the side of 24. I think the Cowboys win by 24 points. That is a bold prediction, but I'm going to go. Um, Man, what do I need for that? I'm going to go to 38-24. That's what I'm going with. And that's 20. No,
No, that's
that's only
14.
14 points. I'm going 38-14. I'm confusing my own self with my little math here. I'm going 38-14
38-14.
Cowboys. And
Okay.
like I said, this could also be a 31-21 game. So that's what I'm saying. It can either be 10 or 24 points, depending on um, how it ends up at
But the
the end. Whether
game is there's not in doubt in the fourth quarter. The game is it's over, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of whether they get
yeah,
a garbage touchdown or Dallas gets a pick six.
yep.
I
That's
I
how I
can go
feel.
along with that. Yeah, I can go along with that.
Okay, so 31-17, 38-14. Those are your predictions here. If you have score predictions, please drop them on the video below. We'd love to hear them. What else do you have left in the tank, Cowboy Reg, for this
I
super
think
wild
we've
card
been
weekend before it starts?
think we've been exercising our demons all year. I think it goes back to last year when we had the Cowboys have never Tom Brady's never lost to the Cowboys. The Cowboys haven't won a road game in the playoffs in 30 years, and we solved both of those in one game. And I think, this year with the Jimmy Johnson curse lifted and the way the playoffs are being played out with Mike McCarthy being the ex-Packers coach and he's facing the Packers, I just see him continue this trend of, slaying these dragons that have been in our way and turning the tide and turning the luck our way. So I'm excited about these playoffs. It just reminds me of the 90s all over again, just the way this team is built, their energy, and just our schedule and the way the season went. It just I'm having deja vu, so I'm feeling confident this first week for sure.
Nice, I love it, and I'm glad you brought up the Tom Brady game last year because I meant to mention that earlier, but that's what this reminds me of too. Like you said, getting rid of some of those demons that have haunted us these past 20, 25 years, um, 30 years, whatever. It's been a long time. You get the point. My
28.
final take, my final takeaway for this game is be confident going in as a Cowboys fan. You have every reason to be confident about this game, and try to avoid thinking about all those garbage stats that don't really matter about how, the Cowboys haven't beaten the Packers at AT&T or they've had bad luck against the Packers in the playoffs. That may all be true, but you do not need to think about that going into this game. You think about how good our team is playing right now, and you think about them, you know, squeaking into the playoffs. They've done a great job of getting into the playoffs this year. I'll admit that. They should be happy about where the franchise is at this point. But I think the Cowboys are just a much better team, and I think they'll take care of business. If you do have Green Bay fans coming at you during the game, before the game, or after the game, when the Cowboys get this win, do not let them live that down and do not let them hide behind the fact that, oh, we're just happy to be here. Well, if you were happy to be here, you wouldn't be talking so much smack. So if and when the Cowboys get this win, do not let the Packers fans defend their loss by, well, we shouldn't have been here anyway. We're a young and experienced team. Like, forget about all that. Torture them as much as possible. But that's my final thoughts. Like we both said, we think the Cowboys will get this win. We will be here post game, depending on our schedules, either directly after the game on Sunday night or most likely on Monday. Like I said, this is the first episode of our podcast, so please give us a subscription, give us a review, leave your comments, and yeah, tune in next time. And we thank you for listening, and we'd love to have you back. So go Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Let's get this win. Whedon boys. Let's do it. All right. Later.